record as a scholar. He published 14 books, carefully researched histories, on such topics as modern Brazil, modern Panama, populism in Latin America, urban development in Latin America, urban politics in Latin America, and the black diaspora to the Americas. And plus dozens of monographs and journal articles, conference presentations, and the like. Upon retirement, he published 2 novels. He decided to move into the historical fiction realm, but he didn't move far from his area of expertise, and his novels are about Latin America as well. And of course, he expanded his Rotary service in retirement. I've talked to a number of you today who, like myself, were sponsored by Mike to join Rotary. When he passed, he left behind a legacy of important work, and he knew how to work. He had a scholar's sense that he needed to write every day. But he also nurtured relationships with family, colleagues, neighbors, fellow Rotarians, co-authors, and students. Anne says that every weekend he would call his sons on the telephone, 3 sons, and they would sign off the calls by either saying, "Te quiero" or "I love you," depending on who he's talking to. He kept his friends for a long time. And those of you that were at the memorial yesterday know that he has started a endowment for Luis Valdez, his high school buddy, that he traveled to Mexico with him and Roy Russell. And also, those of us who attend Rotary regularly know that he did a partnership with Tudo, a Rotarian, and Vietnam Helps to create. We built a high school, we built a school, an elementary school in Vietnam named after Roy Russell, a longtime member of this club. So he kept his friends for a reason. He was loyal. And as Bill McCraw, a colleague at San Jose State, said, "I can't remember ever leaving Mike's presence without feeling good." How many of us can affirm the same thing? When Mike persuaded me to join Rotary, he got me involved in the International House Committee, which was our greeting line today. And I noted that every year, Mike would take a group of international students out to where? What do you think? The Stockton port, so they could see the agriculture move through the Great Central Valley. And the international students could learn there was something more than Silicon Valley and Hollywood about California, but we had the breadbasket of the world as well. He got me involved in the International Service Committee. And while he went with a number of you on wheelchair trips and other kinds of things, he went with me to Armenia to help promote a Rotary-sponsored program in community health worker training. He left a rich legacy of work and friends that he made on his life's journey. Another sweet memory I have of Mike was sailing with him and Anne in the San Francisco Bay on his boat. He sailed everywhere he went, even in New Mexico, but he sailed in Florida as well. And so I think it may be appropriate to end with these words from Tennyson. "Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar." I forgot.
Mike Conniff. May his memory be a blessing. Okay. We will move on to our next item on our agenda. Mike led this club, and new members are the lifeblood of our club. So we have the wonderful honor today of introducing a new member today, Trish Dorsey, excellent, and her sponsor, Johnny Camus. Let's show some love to our newest member and our sponsor. As they are coming up here, I'll remind everyone that the full bios for new members are in the lobby. They're on the bulletin. They're on the web page. They're also in social media. I encourage you to read those, learn a little bit more about Trish. And we will today, though, do something a little more fun, hopefully, and create some connections. I think we know the routine by now, don't we? On your feet, folks. It's time for the afternoon stretch. Get that blood pumping. Studies show that it's good for you. So here we go. Trish, come on over. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Reminder, we're going to play a little either or, folks. And by the way, what makes the game work is this, but it's at the end, if you're still standing, introducing yourself at the end of the meeting, saying, let's sit together next week, creating bonds, creating friendships. Let's make it happen, folks. Okay, here we go, either or. If you got the same answer, thank you so much. If you got the same answer, stay standing. Different answer, take a seat, but keep listening. Okay, first one up for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Would you rather see the movie or go to a play?
See the movie.
Okay. Okay, very good. Mocktails, cocktails, or wine?
Wine.
Wine, okay. Bert George loving you. Okay, there we go.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, we'll do one more. Would you rather visit the Country Music Hall of Fame, one of my favorites, or would you rather go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah, rock and roll.
Okay, we're doing one more. Here we go. Would you rather call or text?
Text. Oh
Okay.
my God.
Wow, okay, the still standards. Folks, please introduce yourself at the end of the meeting. If you stayed for two, please introduce yourself as well. Let's all stand up again and give a nice warm welcome to Trish Dorsey.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be a member now of this club that is so well respected and so impactful in our community. So thank you for having me, and thank you, Johnny, for sponsorship. Love to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Okay. Okay. I don't have my spotlight slide today, but we're having a little spotlight fun today. Folks, is Jim Towery in the house? Here he is. Okay, yes. Jim Towery, he got a wonderful award this past week by the Santa Clara County Bar Association, recognizing him for his 35th anniversary celebration for what is now called the Bay Area Merit Student Clerkship Program, previously the Bay Area Minority Student Clerkship Program. He started it 35 years ago. It was a wonderful celebration that the bar put on. People spoke very beautifully about Jim. I don't know if everyone knows this, but Jim is a bit of a legend in our legal community here. He had a wonderful career with Hoag Fenton for more than 20 years, was a recognized expert in ethics during his practice, and then he moved on to complete his career doing public service as a member of our bench on the Superior Court, and served honorably there for many years. And now he's in retirement, and it seems to me like it's every other month you're getting a new award. I think that's the 5th one I've been to, so well-deserved, and I love celebrating them. Of course, when I was there, I was on the lookout for you-know-what. There he is, but Mr. Towery comes through. He's got the pin, so there's not much. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. But I'm looking out here. I'm noticing from our agenda that next up on the agenda is Ring the Bell, but I'm not seeing past President Karen. Not here?
She's taking a son to the airport right now.
Wow, that's really digging down deep for the excuse, pulling the grandkid into it. Okay, but I would have expected her to be the one to ring the bell, but since she's not even here to do that, we're going to hit her with a $100 fine for absence of that. Yeah, no one's safe. That's the motto for the year. Jim, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Let's give it up for Jim Towery, folks. Okay. All right. We know what that means, folks. Okay, it's ring the bell. It's a chance to share some good news, put some funds into our endowment, which turns around into great works in our community, funds our the wonderful grants we do, the committee work that we do. So if you got some good news or something to share, please, now's the time. A reliable one, Steve Ellenberg. Let's take it away, Steve.
All right, so I've got three. I'll go with, the first one is contingent. I'll pay it next week if we get rid of these tables and go back to the round tables. And that's $100. I mean, what are we doing? We're like at the Rotary Symposium?
I thought you were a change agent, Ellenberg. I thought you were a change agent. We'll have a official vote on that at the end of the meeting, so let's just settle in and everything. We know where you stand.
Hopefully Salas will agree and stand up and ring the bell, with another contingent one. So two little more serious rings. One, want to honor and appreciate Mike Conniff. 2020, I was honored to present him with the Sandy Ellenberg Humanitarian Award in 2023 for all his good work, including his work with TWI in Vietnam. And third, Susan and I had the pleasure last Friday of going to visit with a great Rotarian, Charlie McCollum. And if you haven't had a chance to go, hopefully Charlie's going to be back soon. But Charlie was in great spirits, and speaking of rock and roll and music, he was telling us stories about interviewing Bruce Springsteen and Pete Townsend and David Bowie. Just incredible. In fact, he told us in 1976 he attended 256 concerts.
Wow. As
the music editor for the Washington Star, he said, by about 100, everyone started to sound like ZZ Top.
Sounds like a great program. You could have a whole Rotary talk from him. But
well,
yes.
I was trying. So go and visit Charlie. I've got his address and phone number. You can reach out to him. He I'm sure, would welcome the visit. So 1 ring for Charlie, 1 ring for Mike, and a contingent ring if we don't have this forum symposium seating next week.
We'll put it in the bank with 3. Wonderful, Steve. Great Rotary spirit there.
Hi, President Matt.
Kirk, hello.
Kirk Wallachevich here. I want to ring the bell for my mother. We lost her in early June, short, sudden sort of illness, but she was a Rotarian, and Rotary was a huge part of her life. And she was actually able to be here when I was introduced, and it was a big thrill for her. She had, the day before she passed, she had about a third of her entire club of 40 members were able to visit her in the hospital, and it just shows what Rotary can mean to people, and for that, all 5 rings for her.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kirk. Leah, hello again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ring the bell for former council member Carl Salas.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, he finished out a period of time where I would say, as many would, he worked tirelessly to be serving D3, and I really appreciate you standing in and doing so in the way that you did, Carl.
So well said. Thank you. Kathleen?
Hello, President Matt. I just wanted to give another ring for Mike Conniff. I had the privilege of being on a number of committees with him, and he was a very special individual.
Terrific. Thank you. Past President Julie.
Yes. Hello. I would like to ring the bell twice. Once for my granddaughters, twin granddaughters, Amy and Chloe, who are now 28 years old this month, and for their inspiration and education in teaching me about special needs children. and inspiring me to be one of the visionaries for the Rotary Play Garden.
I love it.
The second bell ring is for the Rotary Play Garden, which will be celebrating 10 years this September 13th, and almost 1 million visitors at the Play Garden. So thank you, Rotary.
Thank you. That is wonderful. Past President Carl Salas.
It is so nice to have Jeremy Harris tickling the ivories again. I'm just wanted to ring once. Jeremy, it's so great to listen to you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
true.
much.
Excellent. There we go. Past President Fernando.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ring a bell once in honor of Ann Fountain, Mike's beloved girlfriend and wife for so many years, and for the wonderful event that she hosted yesterday in honor of our pal, Mike.
Beautiful. Thank you, Past President. Mark McKenna.
Hi, President. Matt, I'd like to ring the bell once in honor of Mike Conniff, who, as I mentioned earlier, was my sponsor. He worked for 10 years to get me into the club, so he was a persistent man, as well as loyal and hardworking. And I'd also like to ring it a second time on behalf of my spouse, Carol Reed, who was a colleague with Mike Conniff and greatly appreciated his friendship and support during her time at San Jose State.
Wonderful. Tim Gill.
Yes,
President-elect.
I'd like to ring the bell for Mike Conniff. Mike was one of my favorite Rotarians. Was the epitome of kindness and always made you feel really good about yourself every time you talked to him. So here's to Mike.
Yes, thank you.
I want to second the 100 for the piano player.
Jeremy, yes,
Jeremy?
wonderful.
Jeremy, it was really good.
Okay, terrific, thank you. Megan, back, oh, Emily, hello.
Hi there, I'm Emily Robin. I would like to ring the bell twice. Once for Mike Conniff, who not only was my Rotary sponsor, but was Matt's first friend in San Jose when Matt moved here, and he and I were living apart for a while I was still looking for employment. And speaking of employment, my second ring is because I'm officially now an employee of Santa Clara County. I work at Valley Medical, and I'm thrilled.
Yoo-hoo, okay. Here we go, Megan.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Megan Fluke. About 2 years ago, I left my job as a nonprofit executive director and started my own nonprofit consulting and coaching practice. And just this summer, I got my first office in downtown San Jose. So I want to ring the bell for not working from home anymore.
Wonderful, okay. All right, and Kimberly, here we go.
Kimberly Mulcahy here, and I want to ring the bell 3 times for all 3 days of the Rockin' San Jose Jazz Festival, which played this weekend and was awesome, and it was great to have live music and lots of fun in the streets of our downtown.
Terrific, okay. All righty, that was great. Here we go. Yeah, we've got the barbecue coming up on September 10th. Prices go up on Friday at noon, so please get on there and sign up as soon as you can. Of course, we're going to have the car show as we always do, which is great. Just a quick thing I wanted to say, which is at the beginning of the meetings, we have the Coming Soon up here with upcoming Rotary Club-wide events. So when you come in, please take a peek at that. Get those things on your calendar. Next week's speaker is Mike Moran, talking on fish farmers, people, and a 45-mile pipe, a layperson's guide to the complexities of the Bay Delta. Sounds very interesting. Please put that on the calendar as well. And today, our speaker is Sarah Bohn, talking about California's future workforce, challenges and opportunities. Sarah, we are going to be we have made a donation in your honor to Children's Musical Theater. So thank you. And at the end of this, I've got a challenge coin for you. I'd like to take a photo with you and give you this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Leah for an introduction. Give some love to Leah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to introduce Sarah Bohn, Vice President and Founding Director of the PPIC Economic Policy Center and Senior Fellow at the Public Policy Institute for California. In her role, she leads research and engagement to inform California policymaking, to support greater opportunity and upward mobility for workers, families, and businesses statewide. A labor economist, her research focuses on the job market, workforce skills, and the role of education and government programs in upward mobility. Her other areas of expertise include immigration policy, poverty measurement, income inequality, and career technical education. She holds a PhD in economics from the University of Maryland, College Park, and I'm thrilled she could speak to our board last year entering our retreat. So Sarah, please come up and join us.
Right here for the slide.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much, and thank you, Leah, for the introduction. Hoping the mic is okay. I thought I would actually start by telling you a little bit about the Public Policy Institute of California, for those who aren't familiar with us. We're a nonpartisan research organization. We're headquartered in San Francisco, with the offices also in Sacramento. Our core mission is to inform state leaders, state policy primarily, with rigorous, trustworthy research and data, some of which I've brought for you today. We study a range of policy issues that we think are crucial for the state's future, from economic policy, which is the one near and dear to my heart, but also education, health policy, the safety net, criminal justice, climate and water. Actually, next week's speaker, I think, probably knows a lot of my colleagues in our Water Policy Center. So we were founded about 30 years ago by 3 leaders in California: William Hewlett, who you know, R.J. Miller, who at the time was the dean of the Stanford Business School and formerly had run Ford Motor Company, and Roger Haynes, who was the chancellor of UC Berkeley at the time. They envisioned an institute that would be California-focused, that could inform key decisions in the state, knowing that we are a large state, one of the largest in the world, and the policy decisions in California matter so much for Californians. Of course, federal policy decisions impact us a lot, as we're seeing right now, but that they believed that California needed an independent voice to inform critical choices for the state's future. We're very fortunate that these visionaries started PPIC with an endowment, and that funds about 2/3 of our operating budget today, and that helps us really buy the kind of independence that gives us entry into a lot of policy discussions, especially in Sacramento, where the need for unbiased facts, research to understand the implications of policy choices in the state and what's ahead for California is, I would argue, kind of more critical than ever. And so I'm really delighted to have landed at PPIC, starting at the University of Maryland and making my way here. I think of our influence as really being independent but engaged, and part of that engagement is with people and leaders like you, to not just look at the data, as I will present a lot of data today, but to understand what you're seeing on the ground as local leaders, concerns that you have as Californians, things that we can elevate to the statewide policy conversation. So I was asked to talk about California's workforce today, and I wanted to start with a snapshot of how we're doing in California and specifically in San Jose amid this year, which I think the #1 word that comes to mind in terms of how we're doing is uncertainty. Lots of tumult in the economic policy space, and we can see that in what's happening in the labor market. Job growth, this is a picture of how jobs have changed year to year in California, which is in green, and San Jose, which is in orange. And I imagine not all of you think of your favorite lunch as being one looking at a lot of data charts. So feel free to ride with me and look at the details, or just kind of take the headline and I'll try to describe what I'm showing here. But the overall trend in terms of jobs in California is that we've been on a 3 or more year trend of really shrinking job growth. There was this fast recovery from the pandemic, which was one of the largest shocks to the labor market in our lifetime. But since then, we've been on a downward trajectory. In San Jose, that actually went negative about 2 years ago, where we're seeing small losses in the job market. And that's a little bit worse than it was in California overall. Overall, in San Jose, over the past 2 years, the region has lost about 8,500 jobs in aggregate. That would have been a bit worse were it not for very substantial job growth in the health sector. That's the bar at the top of this chart. Probably it's hard to read some of the words on this slide, but healthcare, government jobs, a few service sectors have been those that have been growing a little bit. But most of the sectors in San Jose and statewide have been shrinking or just barely hanging on for the past 2 years. Now, what's behind that? I think AI has become a popular explanation as of late, and I will get there. But in my view, the longer term issue, the fundamental thing that is driving these job trends in California and San Jose is about pessimism and uncertainty around what's ahead for the state's economy. This is a picture of how small businesses are feeling about expanding. Every month they're asked, and this is nationwide data, is this a good time to expand now or in the next quarter? And that rate was about 11% as of June. And that's actually a lot higher than it was for the past 2 or 3 years, when we also had the worst inflation crisis that we've seen since around the 1970s. So small businesses are citing concerns about costs. They're citing concerns about hiring as issues that are kind of affecting their ability to expand and grow. Now, you might notice if you're looking closely, there is a spike, an increase in optimism around November, coincident with the election. I'm sure there's factors there that influenced how small business leaders were thinking about their opportunities to grow. But that kind of quickly came back to earth. So now we're at 11%. It's worse than it was before the pandemic in 2019. And unfortunately, we're not seeing too many reasons that this is going to change notably over this year. Pretty much all of the models that we're looking at are expecting kind of GDP, unemployment, job growth to not maybe get worse, but certainly not get markedly better in the next year. So at the risk of really living up to the dismal science, which is my field, I wanted to next switch to a couple of kind of prospects on the horizon, issues on the horizon that I think are going to further transform the world of work and affect our economy both locally and nationally. And the first is a demographic trend, and I sometimes envy my colleagues who are demographers because their work is a lot more predictable, inevitable than economic work, which has a lot of variability to it. So the demographic trend that is really, I think, critically important to understand for the future of our state is the fact that our workforce is shrinking relative to the population, relative to our economy. This is a picture of the percentage of Californians who are working, employed, or looking for work, and we're actually at the lowest rates of that that we've seen basically since the mid-70s when we first started tracking this data. And this is entirely driven by the aging of the population. Over the past 15 years or so, were it not for just the demographics of the baby boom population reaching retirement age and opting out of work, we would have at least an additional 1 million workers in California alone. And population growth is one of the factors that typically drives economic growth. Productivity, growth in population are the things that really catapult economies forward. And so in a world where our workforce, our aging, our workers, our residents of working age are smaller in number relative to the size of our economy, it will be harder to find workers to grow, to fill needs, and that could limit economic growth. And I would just say, yeah, this is feeling very dire. I promised there was some optimism coming in my presentation, but we're expecting, we're kind of at the beginning of the baby boom retirements. We're expecting by around 2050 that there will be 80 dependent age people in California, that is young people not expected to work and older people not likely to work, per every worker. And that's a higher dependency ratio than we've seen ever back to 1860 in California. So in Santa Clara, actually, by 2040, we're expecting the growth of the 65 and older population to be faster than most parts of the state. San Benito is a little bit higher, but Santa Clara is second only to your neighbor county, where we're expecting the growth in that age population to be about 90% between now and 2040. this isn't all bad. Partially, the fact is that Santa Clara has a younger population than most other parts of the state, so you're kind of seeing this kind of aging pattern hit you a little bit later than other parts of California. And this obviously has implications, fiscal implications, providing medical care, health care. As you saw, healthcare, and I said healthcare is one of the sectors that has really been driving job growth in California and here in the Valley over the past couple years in the midst of an otherwise pretty kind of tepid labor market. So there's good news and bad news in that, but certainly an issue with ensuring that we have enough workers to be able to meet the needs of our population and our aging population in particular. So at PPIC, we are looking at the policy options to ensure that we can, help all Californians who would like to work do so. One of the underlying trends that we've picked up on is that older adults are likely to work longer than they have in the past. Some of that might be great news. It's, we're healthier later in life, and if you would like to work, to continue on. I'm not advocating for that. I would like to retire as soon as I can. But those who would like to work, ensuring that, things like age discrimination, access to kind of work that you would like are key areas that actually the state can do something about to make sure that as many people that would like to work can. In addition, we see that, less skilled individuals, families with children are less likely to be working than others of working age. So thinking about access to education or training, connecting to jobs, as well as childcare, its availability, its affordability are key issues that, again, the state has levers that they can affect to increase the workforce to help us meet our needs, but also increase individuals' opportunity to be economically mobile. And last, I would say we have relied tremendously on immigration to California over these years. And of course, we're in a period right now where there's lots of discussion, uncertainty, actions around immigration policy federally. But this will have major impacts, especially in the Valley, where in Santa Clara, I think about 40% of residents are foreign-born. In specific occupations, it's even more so. 59% of software developers are foreign-born. And the draw of this area in particular in California more broadly for immigrants as well as for others from the US has been one of our kind of calling cards and something that has helped us grow over the long term. So, a little concern about what that will look like going forward. So the second transformation that I wanted to talk about is around technology, just the latest iteration of technological change that is going to really fundamentally change our world of work. And of course, I'm talking about AI. We have talked with a lot of AI firms at PPIC, and even they kind of acknowledge that we tend to overestimate how quickly a new technology will take effect and change things, but underestimate the long-term impacts. So we're trying to keep that in mind as we look at the data and assess what the implications of this new technology will be on the world of work. And that's partly why I'm a little bit skeptical of the headlines that are blaming AI for the current job woes, like of recent college grads and whatnot. I think there are other fundamental factors at play. Nonetheless, this is going to be transformative for our world of work, the new technology and AI. So we're doing work that kind of hypothesizes what kinds of impacts there might be across the workforce depending on the adoption of AI. What we do, and others have done this as well, is look at kind of the skills that individual workers have in different occupations and the tasks and things that AI can do or can hypothetically do, and look at how much overlap there is to understand who might be most exposed to AI and its further adoption. And in a way, it kind of flips on its head the implications for the workforce compared to previous technological revolutions. You see construction, production occupations are the least likely to have strong overlap or exposure to what AI can do. But, jobs like social scientists like myself, legal, office work, business and financial operations are much more exposed to this new technology in terms of kind of what their jobs entail and what AI can do. Now, how we use the technology is critical here. So it doesn't mean just because you're exposed to AI or your kind of work is exposed to AI that you will necessarily be replaced. That's what I'm hoping for my own self. It depends on how we leverage the technology to increase our own productivity, to help us do our work better, to help us do higher level tasks and that sort of thing. And to get a sense of like where we're at in terms of that adoption, we're looking to data that comes from the Census Bureau that every month they survey businesses nationwide in a representative survey, and they've started to ask about adoption of AI. To me, this is some of the best data that in a representative snapshot tells us kind of how businesses are actually using AI. It's one thing to have the hypothetical impacts that I talked about, and a whole other thing to know what is actually happening on the ground. In my view, it shows the adoption of AI technology is relatively low. So nationwide, about 9% of businesses indicate that they've adopted AI technology. It's a tiny bit higher in California and a little bit higher in the Bay Area, I think not surprisingly. And it varies a lot across types of businesses. So small and medium-sized businesses are much less likely to be using AI than large businesses. And there's differences across sectors tied to some of what I mentioned before. I just picked out a few to show you here. 4% of healthcare businesses indicate that they've adopted AI technology in their work, as compared to about 13% of manufacturing businesses and 24% of information sector businesses. That includes a lot of tech firms, as well as communications firms, media, even Hollywood is mostly in this information sector. So that really aligns with the anecdotes that you hear of how Hollywood is being transformed, how tech is being transformed. So fundamentally matters kind of where you sit as a worker, as a firm, in terms of how the technology is currently being used. Now, to wrap up, I wanted to I promised some optimism, so I'm sure I will get there in the next slide. I wanted to start by just thinking about how the Bay Area has changed as a result of prior technological revolutions and the innovation that has been really headquartered here in the Valley. This chart is a measure of per capita income. And what you see is that in the beginning of this chart, which is in the early 1970s, all the regions of California were relatively close together in terms of per capita income. Some differences, but not so great. And then you see over time, the Bay Area, which is the top line on this chart, you see it really pulling away in terms of income growth. You can even see the dot-com boom and bust there in that chart. So that today, Bay Area per capita income is 60% higher than it is statewide. And in other places, per capita income has really fallen relative to neighbors, the Central Valley, the Inland Empire, the far northern parts of our state. So, will this continue? I think it's likely this picture will continue given the kind of innovation and what's housed in the Bay Area for kind of future technological growth, but I think we should not take that for granted. I'd also say that in terms of state policy and how legislation affects different regions, this is a core issue for our current governor, probably for future governors, to understand kind of the regional dynamics of the state and how we could ensure that more parts of the state can benefit from the next kind of transformations in our economy. And lastly, I just wanted to kind of summarize why I still, despite some of these challenging transformations on the horizon, think our prospects are very strong in California, stronger here than almost anywhere, certainly in the country or even worldwide. And that's because we are a large economy, one of the largest in the world. We are very diversified, so we are not dependent on one trading partner, which is currently a big issue with trade policy. We're not dependent on one sector, and we're remarkably resilient given kind of the tumult that we've seen even in the last 5 years. Our innovation ecosystem in the state, and especially in the Bay Area, is unique and substantial. That's a draw for firms. That's a draw for individuals, for highly trained people, which is huge in an environment where demographically we're shrinking and we're going to be competing more and more for the workforce of the future. Nonetheless, I think and things that we are pushing in Sacramento are to really look hard at the state's regulation and the incentives that are baked into our system and our regulation and our laws that kind of can enhance or can impede the potential for economic growth, for businesses to locate here, to grow jobs, and to contribute to the needs of the state. And I'll finish on kind of the strong educational institutions, which are the backbone, really, of our innovation in the state and for creating opportunity across the board. We can say more about that in the interest of time. Maybe I'll keep it brief. But, you know, in our view, you know, there's just such a strong backbone there in terms of especially higher education institutions and thinking about and strengthening the connections between industry, education, and government, which are really the key players in education and higher education, really kind of need to work together in this climate, in this period of major transformations on the horizon. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions, and also just wanted you to have our information so that you can follow along and ask any further questions.
Okay, Sarah Bohn, thank you. Traveling mics, we've got time for a few questions. Who has a microphone here?
I have a mic.
There we go, sorry, no glasses. Shiloh, take it away.
Let me see if I can make this short and clear. Since you were talking a lot about AI, and it's going to mean we're going to get more efficient, right? Like that's the idea, we're going to be doing all this stuff efficiently. I would think most of us here in the community, we would want to see those benefits and those efficiencies accrue to everyone and not just those at the top, which means that we should be working less. And so I'm wondering if, like, where are those conversations happening? That as we're developing these technologies, we're becoming more efficient. We should have a 35-hour work week. We should have a 30-hour work week. Are those conversations happening about how we make sure the benefits of AI accrue to the broader population?
That is a great point, and I can't say that I've heard that as a prominent feature of the policy conversations that I've been a part of. It's a little bit more of kind of fear, so kind of protecting the potential for AI to displace work. And I guess as an economist, I would have to say it doesn't necessarily mean that we will work less. None of our prior technological revolutions have led to less work. Because it makes us more productive, it opens whole new areas of productivity and, you know, ways to contribute. So I think those might be two separate conversations, certainly overlapping, and I'm with you on 35-hour work week. I currently double that. So I think it's a very good point that yeah, we can certainly make sure it's more prominent in the conversation.
AI is dependent upon enormous amounts of energy.
Yes.
5 times as much as the normal, which leads us to data centers, which is a major issue in this area. How are we going to get there? There's a lot of undercurrent in opposition to AI because of the the impact on the grid, the water, and so forth. So how will you see that playing out?
I wish I had the answer. I do not. I will give a slight promo that next Thursday, PPIC is hosting a full-day conference on energy, and this is one of the issues that I think we'll learn from additional state leaders about, because right now the affordability issues of energy are just huge and have become, I think, even more prominent after the inflation crisis that we've been through. So I don't have an answer now, but hopefully we'll generate some of the conversation that can get there.
This is more of an endorsement than a question. PPIC was the brainchild of Bill Hewlett. David Lyon, a former colleague of mine from the RAND Corporation, was its first president, brought it to life. The idea is that California needs good data and good analysis to make good decisions. PPIC is a wonderful institution, currently headed by Tani Cantil-Sequille, the former Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court. I'm Gloria Duffy, President of the Commonwealth Club. We often work with you and host your presentations. Just a shout out to PPIC and you and your colleagues for doing such excellent research.
Wow. Thank you.
Mark McKenna, we've got time for a couple more. Let's go to Mark.
I endorse the endorsement from Gloria. Thanks for bringing some real data to our conversations. Sort of a two-part question on the issue of economic growth. You talked about AI, increasing efficiency, increasing productivity. That's one way to have economic growth without necessarily growing the population. So what are the potentials there? There's the threats to job displacement, but then there's also the opportunity of increased productivity. And the flip side of it is, you talked about immigration. That's been critical for California for 150 years. What can California policy do to mitigate some of the impacts of whatever's happening at the federal level? What kind of recommendations would you make towards the government to encourage immigration, support immigration into California, even if it's not otherwise supported within the national framework?
Wow, those are great questions. On the first part around productivity, I think the key question gets back to our first question, which is how much will the productivity gains be shared across the firms and the population that use AI? In terms of federal policy, I can't answer that question simply because it is spanning so many realms right now, and we're doing literally work across all of our areas of policy at PPIC to understand that. So I think in the meantime, regardless of the kind of the federal policy issues, I believe that California needs to confront our affordability crisis, cost of living, things that might impede people from coming to California, which in the past has not really done that. The data doesn't bear that out. But I think we might be at a point where it's no longer workable. So I would say, regardless of some of the federal issues, that's the key one for California to focus on.
Norm, we got 60 seconds for question and answer. Go.
This sounds like such important work. Do you have the vibe that our state legislators are taking the time to actually look at your work?
I mean, some more than others, I will say. We also constantly have a lot of new legislators who are really kind of even new to the legislative process. So we do a ton of work, including our president, Tani Cantil-Seka-Ue, and all of us to build the relationships to make sure our research is getting into the right hands. You know, as a researcher, I learned early on at PPIC that you can do the best study that gives a very clear answer, but if the political winds and the issues on the table are not on that issue right now, then your work is not gonna make much headway. But to stay in it for the long haul is part of what we're doing, and so we continue to try and keep our portfolio robust and make sure we share it whenever possible.
Thank you. Show some love to Sarah. Okay. Let's take a photo right over here. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Sarah. We got 30 seconds. We've got something new with the tables here. I need to take a quick vote. All those who like the new table situation, please, hands up. Oh my God. All those who want to go back to circle, to round, wow. Change in Rotary, I don't know about it. Okay, well, thank you. Folks, you're off the hook. You're off the hook, Ellenberg. All right, well, we'll see you back next week. The show's a wrap. I'm going to send you out with 2 pina coladas, figuratively, of course, by Garth Brooks. Here we go. And with that, our meeting's a wrap.